Welcome to my Bedtime Breathers. These are a series of short stories, of which there are 6 in a book. And my first book, called Bedtime Breathers Book 1, contains 6 short stories. I wrote these songs under my pseudonym, Doug Ross. If you think that you're brave enough, then stay and listen, because it's free. But don't blame me if you're frightened. Read on. Here we are again, ready for a second story of Bedtime Breathers. My name is Bruce Grant, and I'm just an old individual, but I write stories. Sometimes I think the stories are exciting. At least my readers tell me so. So here goes. I have a book called Bedtime Breathers, and it consists of 6 short, very short stories that have a twist at the end. Most of them are in the genre of horror or thriller or suspense. So you can decide for yourself. What I'll be doing is reading half of the story now, and then in a few days I'll read the second half of the story. So here goes. Bedtime Breathers number 2. Maggot. Dictionary. Maggot, noun. A soft-bodied, legless larva of a fly or other insect found in decaying matter such as roadkill. For example, the maggots attacked the rancid flesh of the dead rabbit. Ultimately, Ma would be rewarded with what was coming to her. She was always bitching and complaining about what her son did or was doing. Her husband, Bobby, or Robert to use his full name, had ceased occupying his mortal coil some handful of years prior to this particular day, which was causing her to be more obnoxious than usual. It was the anniversary of his passing. He had been a simple man, controlled by his alpha wife, being pushed into doing everything that she wanted, regardless of anything that he, as her husband or as a man, wanted. He had no say whatsoever in the upbringing of their son, as she was the only one who decided what would happen within the family. She ranted and raved at what her son Judas was doing. He was only 13 years old, but he was following his own wishes and desires, rather than following those of his mother, or what she believed to be the more traditional methods of her family ancestors. Her son was digging around in the dirt, very carefully looking and scrutinizing those individual grains of dirt which adhered to his trowel wielded by his left hand. He was squatting down with his arms between his widespread knees, giving him easy access to where he was currently excavating. Ma had no idea what was going on in that head of her son, as she spent countless hours in that position, removing trowel after trowel full of damp, loamy marl, which had earlier been added in a very measured quantity by amalgamating with the natural composition of minerals and grains of the original soil, in order to provide a more comfortable environment for a particular life form. He very carefully separated into different groups those of earthworms, leather jackets, millipedes, beetles, and any other individual kind of life form that he came across for further scrutiny at a later date. The one thing that Judas had been particularly interested in, though, was maggots. He wanted to find out what the life cycle of the maggot truly was, and to what life form did the maggot actually belong. Naturally, in order to make sure that the specimens exposed through his persistent digging remained in their designated containers, so requiring the emplacement of jars with screw tops, which would prevent any of those selected life forms from escaping. He was very careful, in fact, as scrupulous in his actions as any archaeologist, biologist, or botanist might be, preventing any cross-contamination with each specimen jar. The tops were always properly screwed on with no cross-threading. The glass was always immaculately clean, regardless of the fact that it was pressed into dirty soil. His eyeglasses were always very carefully placed on his face after dutifully polishing the lenses to remove any blemishes that might interfere with his vision. His clothing was always correct for any kind of weather, be it bright and sunshiny or chilly and inclement. He always wore appropriate headgear, thus protecting himself from the elements he was exposing himself to on a daily basis. Judas was shunned at school because he behaved in a manner typical of nerds and bookworms, which did not fill that generation of children with glamour, excitement, or camaraderie. He was definitely a loner. Not only a loner, but a timid one to boot. He neither craved, wanted, desired, nor even accepted any friendship from any of the other children of his own age, or even those who might be a little older either. He simply remained in his own secluded and cloistered world. His teachers, although quite attentive to the needs of the pupils, eventually gave up their attempts to integrate him into the class itself and gradually left him to his own devices. However, he always seemed to come up top of the class in terms of academic marks in each of their subjects. End of part 1.